Episode 31 of the New England Sports Media Podcast. Liam's back. It's not just me anymore. And we've got Hoop Major John, our buddy from random college basketball games, currently working at Three Step Sports and a well-known basketball videographer in the New England region. John, how's it going?
What's going on, guys? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you. So we met you, I think, at a BU game, filming Max Mahoney. Probably the best mixtape he ever got. Now he's in Germany, so maybe you can take some credit, huh?
I don't know about all that. Max is definitely a talented player. Happy for him getting a chance abroad there. But yeah, a while back that we met, and appreciate you guys having me on, and great seeing what you're doing with the podcast.
Thank you. So 2018 UConn grad, right? So
Correct.
take us through what did you want to do when you were in college, and then where did you go from there? You were kind of talking about it a little bit off air, but what did you want to do, and where did you go, and where are you now? Take us through.
No, for sure. The goal for a while was always grassroots, basketball in particular, which is where I'm at now. Took a little bit of a sidestep coming out of college. I took a job at New Balance, which was really cool. Got an opportunity to kind of get the larger scale brand side of things in the sport industry. But in my free time, still did a lot of videography in the grassroots space, a little bit of college as well, obviously where I met you guys. But have since parlayed that back into an opportunity at Three Step, which is the youth leader in the grassroots industry. And that's really kind of how I got my start in this whole thing, even back in high school. So really happy to kind of feel myself back at home here at Three Step.
So were you, when you were in high school, were you playing? Were you filming games? Like, where did this all kind of start for you?
That is exactly how I started. So a little bit of both. Definitely started playing, as most of us do. And then as we got a little bit older and the competition got a little tougher, I realized I wasn't going in the NBA anymore.
I know how that goes.
Exactly. So me and my buddy, we would film our own AAU games and mess around with the footage after it. So that's kind of how my interest turned into a love for film. And we would mess around with our own highlights, throw them up on YouTube, Instagram, whatever. And we would start doing that for other kids as well, teammates, and people would reach out, and it kind of just snowballed from there. I would say probably sophomore and junior year of high school is when I started like taking the filming side a little bit more seriously. And we were pretty big on YouTube in the New England area. There were a couple other guys at the time who were doing it, but nowhere near the space that it's kind of turned into now. We've got tons of outlets and massive businesses centered around filming high school basketball. So it's really cool to see how it's evolved and to know I was kind of on the early end of that. But yeah, started off with playing and has since turned into my career. So pretty cool to see the evolution.
So can you explain to the listeners exactly what you do now and kind of your full-time space and how that translates into the passion that you said you were kind of pursuing freelance and how that sort of intertwines?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now I work as a basketball marketing coordinator for Three Step, and Three Step owns and operates a handful of club programs, like AU teams, I guess is a synonym for them, as well as event operators across the country. So those include, but aren't limited to, Bigfoot, which is out of Texas and Vegas, West Coast Elite out of California, Zero Gravity, which is a staple here in New England, Competitive Ed Sports out of like the Philly, Mid-Atlantic region, USA Youth Hoops out of the Midwest. So it's really a pretty wide mix. And in my role, I'll do like graphic design, promotional stuff, pre and post event, a lot of video work. We're not out on the road too much right now with the pandemic, but hoping to travel a bit more in 2021. So my role, I'll work with primarily event operators and marketing members within those groups, and do pretty much everything to hype up events and cover the grassroots space.
And in your role now, like, what are some of the key audiences that are you looking to promote mostly to coaches of these teams, kids of these teams? Like, who are you looking to target your stuff towards?
Definitely varies depending on the group. Some are pretty self-sufficient and don't really need help like selling the event, so to speak. So in that case, we'll just kind of celebrate it and kind of highlight some of the top guys, whereas other groups, we maybe want to push a little more behind the scenes and do a little bit more email marketing to actually generate revenue. So we've got a couple different strategies, and depending on the event and the time of year, we'll adapt a little bit of a different approach.
That's cool, man. And I was keeping up with your stuff before, like early in the college season. I remember seeing you doing something for like Bleacher Report hoops, like some college stuff. Like, are you still able to do a good amount of freelance on the side now?
Yeah, I do, and that's definitely fun to keep the skills sharp. And I mean, for me, it's always going to be fun to get out on the road and get in the gym and watch the high level guys. So yeah, between BR hoops and just other freelance opportunities, I'm still able to do all of that in addition to the job. So it's really never ending, but it's a fun work. So I can't complain at all.
It's sick, man. And for BR hoops, how did that kind of start? Like, did they just kind of see your stuff, or did you like reach out to them?
Yeah, so it started probably that relationship a year and a half, 2 years ago. My friend Ian, who founded Hoop Major and is my partner there, they reached out. I think the first one was for a LaMelo game down in Virginia or something, and that's when they initially launched their BR Hoops brand. And ever since then, he's been working with them nonstop, and I'll kind of cover a little bit of the New England area and a couple other big events across the country. But definitely, they're great people over there and a great partner. So yeah.
You mentioned the crowded space that there is for basketball videographers. I mean, we've had a few on our podcast. They're kind of, it is a huge array of people like yourself, the Connect, Liam from Slam, but then there's also some more low key people who are kind of maybe even in high school, college. What's your sort of relationship with the other people that you see? Like when we were at Hoop Hall, you're on the baseline and there's literally like 600 videographers. Like what are you doing? What is your relationship like these people? And what is your role? What is your niche? Like what makes you you?
Well, double-sided question there. I'll start off with some of the other guys. I love all the New England-based guys. Liam's a great friend. Sam, I think you guys had on Bronco. Yep. The Connect, those guys are all great. But yeah, there are definitely a million now, to your guys' point. I don't know all of them, but all of them that I do, I'm very friendly and cordial with. And in terms of what I do to differentiate myself, I would say I probably rely a little bit more on like my business savvy in addition to the creative skills. I think there's a lot of really good people out there who are super talented, both at shooting and editing. But I think I do a pretty good job on the networking side and the business relationship and management side. I haven't been posting as much as I would like to as of late, but I think for me right now, it's really about like kind of setting myself up to be in good positions from a business standpoint, in addition to just like posting just to post. So finding a good balance between the two, I would say, my sweet spot.
And when you were at UConn too, were you involved with the team or filming anything there?
Not a whole lot. I did an internship while I was at UConn with the Under Armour Association for a couple of years, and because I was kind of in the grassroots space there, I didn't really do anything directly with the team. But a couple of my really good friends and my roommates even at UConn were managers, so I obviously know a lot of the guys on the team and was around like the basketball culture, so to speak, but didn't do anything directly with the team or the UConn marketing department, but I was a part of a sport business association and a sport business conference. So definitely involved in like the athletic culture, but just not as a member of the team at all.
So when we see you at Mount St. Michael's in the Bronx at that tournament, you're there. I think you were working for Pat, but
Yep, working with Pat Lawless.
but in general, when you go to these tournaments, are you always working for someone, or are you ever kind of just winging it? And then once you ask that, I'll follow up.
Cool. I would say 90% of the time, I'm either there working for like the event operator or media outlet, primarily BR Hoops. And I would say that's definitely evolved over time. When I was younger and trying to get my foot in the door, there were times we would go to events for free, just to kind of get the content, develop relationship with the athletes or the event operator. But now being a little bit older and being out of college, it's kind of like I've got enough opportunities that I don't really need to take them unless there's a rhyme or reason. So I'm a little more selective now, but I would say by and large, it's normally working for like the event themselves or an outlet.
And where I want to follow up on that is when you go to these events, uh, do you and you're covering it for? I mean, for BR Hoops, you probably have an idea of like what players you want to do.
Mhm.
But when you're covering it for like the event itself, maybe it's not a tournament filled with top 100 prospects. Maybe it's kind of like a local zero gravity type tournament. How do you like discern? How quickly can you discern who you're going to have enough like footage of to make an individual tape? How you're going to make maybe a tape with a bunch of people just to promote the event? Like, what goes into the planning of how you're going to utilize your time and resources and come up with something by the end?
No, that's a great question because it is very important, especially when you're working on time crunches and you've kind of got to be efficient with how you shoot. People always don't really understand the full process. If you film a 2 hour game and then have to watch back that 2 hour game and edit the 2 hour game, that turns into a 10 hour process. So in a 60-minute game, I might try and only shoot like 12 of that. And then we have like little shortcuts and tricks we can use to cut down on the editing time while we're filming. Um, and then to double down on that, I will at times, depending on why I'm there, whether it's for a BR, working for the event, talk to people ahead of time and make sure I have a decent understanding on who we want to have content of after the fact. That way, if they're not in the game, then maybe we put the camera down for a little bit. Um, but yeah, you definitely need to be strategic and selective. And I would like to say I've got a decent eye for basketball, but normally the kids make it pretty easy and make it known who the top guys are.
And would you say there were any videos, like any guys who you shot who like helped you kind of gain followers or get big? Like, were there any tournaments you remember that kind of helped you separate yourself?
Throwing it way back to when I was in high school, I would say probably Hamadou Diallo was the first one when he was at Putnam Science. He was the first guy I remember watching, being like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely got a chance to go to the NBA." Donovan Mitchell was an early one that stands out as well, although I didn't get a ton of him at the time just because I was younger and Brewster was a little bit more of a trek than Putnam was. But yeah, I would say those two early on. And then more recently, T. Clark, I covered a bunch this past year. But yeah, I got to go with Hamadou.
So I'm wondering, so like with Terrence Clark, it seems like there are so many people that have gotten a piece of him for like whether they're a reporter, a videographer, photographer. Like he seems like probably I couldn't imagine like a high school superstar being any more accessible than he is or he was. What was your experience like with him? Like, did you find that he was extremely accessible and pretty like thankful for what people are doing? Because in my experience, with a brief time I met him, he was like I was very impressed with his maturity.
I would only echo those sentiments. He was a great kid. Very thankful. Anytime you would tag him in a story or something, he would respond and say thanks for coming, appreciate it. And yeah, to your point, very level-headed for all the things that I'm sure he got coming his way, especially as a 15, 16-year-old kid. So I would agree with you on that. Spot on.
Are there any?
Yeah, and I know now you're doing a lot of national things and working with a bigger club AAU accounts, but what do you think is your connection like with the Boston area? Like you're still living around here, like you're doing a lot of stuff this summer. Like what was that like, and how do you think you try to like bolster the community?
Um, might be giving me too much credit there with the with the bullshit of the community, but no, I love living in Boston. I'm a New England guy from the beginning. Grew up in Connecticut, went to UConn, and then been living up in Boston for about 3 years now. And I've been to a bunch of local stuff. The Let It Fly Classic is always a good one. KJ Summer Runs is another one that has to come to mind. KJ Baptiste is a good friend. He's a GA down at Penn State, and he puts on the best summer runs in the city. Shout out KJ if you're watching. Yeah, no, that's a great way to stay involved. All the Boston Hoopers come back and playing that. And yeah, would definitely love to continue to do more in the Boston area, but always got love for New England for sure.
With that KJ Summer Runs too, like I've always seen that. That's pretty dope. Like where is that? Like how did that really come about?
Launched that probably 2 summers ago, and at the time, I think most of them were at Northeastern. I think we did one at BU, definitely one at BU, but normally at Northeastern. I think AJ Green, pretty sure that's his name, that KJ's close with, was getting him into the gym back then, and then since then it's kind of evolved. We've bounced around to a couple different spots, and this summer was a little trickier with COVID, so I think we had to get outside the city a little bit. But yeah, just started a few years back as a way to give the guys coming back that are still in college or playing overseas a chance to get that competitive run that they don't get while they're in their actual season.
I'm curious when you go to those runs, like because they're not like underground but they're pretty private. I mean, like you might have some videographers there, but it's not like the public in general.
Yeah.
I'm curious. There's a real huge like variation of talent at those runs. Like you got some D3 guys, you got some NBA players. Like I know Eric Demers was there, and like Bruce Brown is there. How does that look? Like do those D3 guys can they hold up? Like what's the summer runs look like with such a variation of talent?
They definitely hold up. Geez, I'd have to dig into the archives, but everyone's had a good showing there. And I mean, last summer there was Cole Schweider and Jermaine Samuels, 2 guys at Villanova, who's obviously a top team in the NCAA this year. We're on the same team, and they probably won 10 or 12 straight. So I mean, the better guys normally hold their own, and the NBA guys who have come back normally do very well. Duncan Robinson was there 2 summers ago and shot the lights out. But by and large, the D3 guys, the low D1 guys, they're the real freaking deal, and they're the talent disparity is there, but everyone who's on the court can do it for sure.
So in one of those runs, like how many teams of 5 show up?
When it first got started, it would probably be like 10 to 15 guys, and they would get tired quick, and they were like hour and a half runs. And then as it's grown, you'd get like 25, 30. There'd be 2 courts going, and you'd be there for half the day. So it's definitely grown. And again, big shout out to Coach Hollins and KJ and everyone who's involved there. But definitely seen some big growth in the last year or 2.
What do you think this summer did for the local runs? I saw that, obviously like some teams played AAU and stuff last summer, but not everyone did. And there were a lot of things going on, both guys and girls. There were a lot of like local runs. Do you think that that's gonna stay? Is that gonna last? Like, is kind of like local pickup ball gonna come back, and stay, or is that just a kind of a holdover for the COVID summer?
I would like to think it will. I mean, nothing beats being out in the park in the summer, whether I'm on the baseline filming or whether I'm playing myself as a kid growing up. I think we've all got some fond memories of that. But with that said, I mean, the goal for this high level type kid is to play at the next level. So if they've got a chance to go get seen by a college coach at a sanctioned event, they should. That's definitely in their best interest. But there's time for both, right? I mean, there's only a few weeks of live period throughout the spring and summer. So I'd petition for both.
What would you say is the most underrated AAU program in Massachusetts?
I'll know if I can say that. I'll get a couple DMs
Next
from
question.
people I don't
Next
miss.
question.
I got to give a shout out to my guy Mike Crotty in the Middlesex Magic. They're definitely not underrated in New England, but nationally they are, and I'll be covering them this coming spring summer on the ZGXL circuit, and I'm looking forward to seeing them play.
Two of my main guys on that team, Dom Campbell and the kid from York, whose name I can't remember, who goes to Brooks, Brady Cummins.
Brady Cummings, yep.
Two main guys on that team, so I got some respect for the Middlesex Magic as well. Um, so I kind of want to talk about last year at Hoop Hall. That was my first time there. Was that your first time or second?
Oh,
Or
if
like
you wanna go way back, I used to buy in like my own ticket and sneak the camera in and film from the stands. So a few more to add to the list of like early people I filmed. It's like the old school Chino Hills,
Oh yeah.
Marvin Bagley, Brandon Ingram. There's been a lot of, I mean, Hoop Ball's had everybody. Jalen Brown, Ben Simmons. But yeah, no, I've probably been half dozen times, and then more recently, approved credential for Hoop Ball watching. But yeah, no, it's a great event.
So tell me, last year, I mean, every year is probably going to be whenever when they have it again. Hopefully next year. Every year is going to be more social media guys, more guys who are wicked popular just across the board. What was it like for you to see that Sierra Canyon team and be around that Sierra Canyon team for Hoop Ball? Because I was blown away. Like the energy in the building when they played the first night was crazy. And then when LeBron came on the Sunday, the energy in the building was just nuts. What was it like for you? And do you as like a videographer ever kind of feed off of that energy or feed off of that like feeling in the room and what do you do with it?
I don't know if I can say I'm numb to it now. I kind of get a little more excited personally by like a good game or just like a crazy buzzer beater than the guys themselves. I mean, seeing LeBron is always cool. I mean, growing up, I don't know about you guys, but I love LeBron. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that as a Celtics fan, but I love LeBron. So yeah, like seeing him come in and then everyone in the crowd stand up. I mean, that's cool. But yeah, no, I would say I'm here for a good game over some high level guys 9 out of 10 times.
And how about who would you say has been the guy that's kind of surprised you the most? We talked about like the guy that kind of, helped you get on the map. Who's been the guy that's or girl or whoever that's kind of caught you by surprise and is really succeeding right now, whether they're whether they're still in high school and college or playing professionally? Like who kind of caught you off guard? Who's still kind of kicking around or still doing things?
No, that's a good question because there are people that especially with like other media people that will have like weird affinities for and like vouch for. None are coming to the top of my mind right now, but there's got to be a couple. I mean, yeah, I've been filming for so long. There's enough guys in like the NBA that I didn't even expect to get there from the New England area. I mean, Bruce is definitely one that comes to mind. There are others, and I'm gonna text you guys after the pod and be like, "Oh shit, I should have had that." But I'll go with Bruce for the sake of the question.
All right, I like that one. What about how much traveling have you done to see the Massachusetts or New England AAU teams at the national level? Have you seen a lot of that? Like, have you been to grassroots tournaments across the country? You have across the country, and what are New England teams like? Are they any different than teams from other regions? Do regions have their own kind of like swagger or flavor,
culture?
or is it just kind of like every team is just a team?
Well, yeah, first part of the question, a decent amount. When I was younger, I went, did the UIBL circuit with Expressions a couple times, and then I did the internship with UAA, so traveled to all of their stops for a couple of years with them. Did Peach Jam last time they ran, so that would have been 2 summers ago, and then now with a 3-step, we'll travel a bunch. Then in terms of New England, not too much. I think it's more in the their off court and like their vernacular maybe than their on court style. I think that's really just like team by team and their coaching more so than their regional feel. And even within New England, I mean, the rivals will bring a different style than BABC, than Expression. So I think it's really just team by team there.
All right, John. That's all we got for you. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
No, appreciate you guys having me, and hopefully I'll see you guys back out there shortly.
For sure.
Hopefully. Get rid of this COVID, although I don't know when it's gonna go away, but hopefully soon.
Messed up, always. All right, appreciate it, guys.
Thanks.